Hey cool people, I'm Nick, I'm a he, him, and welcome to
Welcome to Item Hunt, the show where we need items like Sora needs more brain cells. Desperately. Today, we're gonna get all the blueprints in Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. And yes, that means we'll be going over all the Gummi missions as well, so this is half an item hunt and half a Gummi missions guide. With that said, feel free to strike the like button so that this video can blast off. This section is going to be shorter than my attention span because, honestly, we can get the entire Gummi Block collection from Pongo and Perdita when we return all 99 puppies to them. Card in the corner for Dalmatian locations. The only other things left to go over are the Gummi Blocks you can't get from Pongo and Perdita. Entire Gummi collection my ass. For the sake of time, I'll just put up a quick list for screenshot purposes, otherwise you can click the Item Hunt playlist link in the description. And I won't be going over every single block that drops from a destroyed enemy ship. We'd be here all day. Okay, moving on to start. Our first Gummi ship we get is the Kingdom model, named Highwind, Excalibur, Excalibur A, Bodie McBoatface, whatever you want to call it. After that, we can get 7 ships from Geppetto by talking to him in his Traverse Town house. The requirements vary for each ship, and I'm going to go in order of the Gummi menu. First up, Hyperion, which we can get after we defeat 5,000 Heartless and unlock all 6 summons. Geppetto, the ship, not the guy, we get from just entering his house and talking to him. Sid, the ship, not the guy. Okay, I'll just say the blueprints from now on to make it more clearer. Sid blueprint, defeat 500 Heartless. Leon blueprint, defeat 4,000 Heartless. Yuffie blueprint, defeat 1,500 Heartless. Aerith blueprint, defeat 3,000 Heartless. Cactar blueprint, defeat 1,000 Heartless. Additionally, Pinocchio will give us a ship, and we'll put it right here on the fridge. We can get it if we walk in and out of Geppetto's house 30 times. It's the Chocobo blueprint. So after that, there's the ships we can get from the Gummi routes, not the missions, but the actual routes themselves. So, for the 28 enemy ships, I'll say where we first encounter the blueprint, which is the little circle object dropped by the enemy ships. For instance, the Cindy blueprint is first encountered on the path between Wonderland and Deep Jungle. And here's an image of which lanes you can find Cindy in. See? So simple. Ship 2. Shiva blueprint is first encountered between Traverse Town and Olympus Coliseum. Labia blueprint. Lamia. It is not Pussy Lips, I repeat, it is not Pussy Lips. Lamia is first encountered along the Agrabah and Atlantica path. Sandy blueprint, first found on the path between Agrabah and Halloween Town, is also on the Halloween Town to Neverland path. Sylph, there's a sex joke here, I just know it. First seen between Traverse Town and Wonderland. Carbuncle, only located on 2 paths, Agrabah to Atlantica and Agrabah to Halloween Town. Mindy, found initially on the Agrabah to Atlantica path. Goblin, ironically green, is first found between Traverse Town to Wonderland. Bomb, but not .com, appears initially on the Blue Warp path. Remora, not to be confused with Scott Pilgrim's girlfriend, is found exclusively in the Orange Warp. Ahriman, is that a Digimon? It's encountered on the Traverse Town to Wonderland path. Imp, BRB having World of Warcraft flashbacks, is only on the Orange Warp. Siren, BRB having God of War flashbacks, is also found in the Orange Warp, but also the Purple Warp. Stingray is found in the Blue Warp, and all these other f***ing places. Cato Plumbus, that can't be it, is found between Atlantica and Neverland, also Halloween Town and Neverland. Adamant is encountered between Agrabah and Atlantica. The ship with the serpent tattoo, no, it's just serpent, is only found between Neverland and Hollow Bastion. Ifrit, only found in the Purple Warp. Odin, BRB, having God of War flashbacks.
Has anyone ever worshipped you?
Is first encountered in the Purple Warp. Atamos. Atamos resides between Agrabah and Halloween Town, but also between Halloween Town and Neverland. Golem is between Wonderland and Deep Jungle. Diablos, not to be confused with that mobile game, flies between Agrabah and Atlantica. Death, guys, it's death in disguise, is first found in the Blue Warp. Typhoon appears between Agrabah and Halloween Town. It's this gray mother freight train, and it's only in this one fire trucking spot. Alexander, eventually found on the Traverse Town to Wonderland path. Leviathan, aka the size of my
favorite dinosaur, the Mesosaurus.
It appears in the Blue Warp and between Neverland and Hollow Bastion. Ramu, I don't even know you, appears between Traverse Town and Olympus Coliseum, also Olympus Coliseum and Deep Jungle. And the last droppable enemy ship is Omega, only found between Hollow Bastion and End of the World. Hey, congrats, now for the last 11 ships, the Gummi Mission ships. Okay, the final 10 blueprints are rewards for completing the 3rd Gummi mission in each world, excluding Monstro. The 11th blueprint, however, requires us to complete all 30 Gummi missions. So basically it's just a participation trophy. Square Enix be like, oh, wow, you did it! Oh my god, great job, baby! Toms hate that. Subs love it. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's start with a base ship. That way you can more easily follow along. Essentially, we place a cockpit in the center. Any cockpit is fine, small cock, big cock, round cock, whatever. Surround your cock with 12 armor blocks, then add another 12 armor blocks below those. Then a radar and a haste gummy are placed in the space beneath our cock. If you have a radar 2 and a haste 2, then use those. Radar 2 might have a different name, I don't really remember. Next, 2 net, aka Osmos gummies, are placed 1 on each side of our cock. I also add a Holy engine in the back, and a shield 2 gummy behind our cock, but using shield 1 is fine. Also, there's a last cock joke, I promise. Up front, we have some guns, 4 Thunder gummies, 2 Thundara gummies with 1 turned on its side, allowing it to shoot vertically, then 2 Meteor gummies, and under the armor blocks, we'll place 2 Ultima gummies. Lastly, 2 to 3 Tornado gummies standing upright are placed along each side of the ship, and Asuna gummies, or Reveal Invisible Object gummies, line the back surrounding the engine. And then when all that's placed, we're going to save it. And I named it Butts. So you'll probably notice in some of my footage I'm using a different ship. It's just a version of Butts that's bare bones. Bony Butts, if you will, from before Kyrie's rescue. It's set up like this. A cockpit, a flare engine gummy, 6 or 8 armor blocks in a line in the front, a radar, a haste 2, a shield 2, an Osmos, 2 Aroga gummies, and whatever guns I could fit in the front. Usually 1 Thunder, 1 Thundara, 1 Meteor, and 1 Ultima. Although, when I eventually bought Comm Level 2 and 3 from Sid, I did go back to the bigger Butts gun setup, and while Bony Butts does work, I recommend using the after Kyrie base ship bigger Butts, thick Butts as opposed to Bony Butts, since thick Butts has more health and more editing space. But Bony Butts will do if you haven't gotten all the Dalmatians. Speaking of, we don't necessarily have to get all the puppies, but at least buy Comm Level 2 and 3 from Sid like I just mentioned, and then all the Thunder, Thundara, Thundaga, Comet, Meteor, and Ultima gummies from Sid too. This gets us nearly to the same capabilities of not so Bony Butts. Average Butts. Also, if it isn't too late to do so, I highly recommend having Monstro spawn on the upper path from Agrabah. Basically, it can still eat us while we do gummy missions, and it's just so inconvenient that I would go lay in the street, I swear to God. But anyway, I'll explain why the upper path later. For now, enough talk about cocks and butts, let's get this ship soaring with Traverse Town's gummy missions. Mission 1. Get a high score of 80 or more. To use a term I've seen on Facebook a lot, it's piss easy. You've probably already did this by accident, but we can use bony or thick butts to do it. Let's set off from Wonderland, and as long as it says at least 80 in the high score slot, we're good. Mission 2. Set off from Olympus Coliseum and collect 30 or more shield gummy blocks. Real quick tips, just a tip. Go into the gummy menu, gummy ship, config. and change the brakes to L1. Your hands will thank me. Not like that. So what we have to do for this mission is shoot purple squares. They are what drop the shield gummies, and there's a ton of shield gummies along the way. For here, we can slow down at the 4 sets of purple squares on rings. Then, once we're in the next portion, where the 4 green meteors are, we can shoot them, then the 4 purple squares behind said meteors, then the 3 rows of purple squares, then use the Osmosis Jones net by flicking the right stick to gather them all. And if you're not at 30, there's a ton of purple squares still to come. When we have 30 shield gummies indicated by this icon in the upper right corner, we can just use our haste gummy to get to Traverse Town, aka accelerate, aka
Chaos Control.
Mission 3. Set off from Hollow Bastion and arrive in Traverse Town with a high score of 0 without taking any damage. Shield and Shield 2 gummies prohibited. This is an after rescue only because we need the purple warp. And what we're going to do for this mission is make a new ship from scratch, place a cockpit, a holy engine, 4 tornado gummies, and the transform gummy. Then let's save it in slot 2 and name it A, and then save it again in slot 3 and name it B. Then we'll back out, go to the gummy ship, go to transform, and link the 2 ships together. The plan here is, if we think we're going to get hit, or if we're going to hit something, we can press X to transform, giving us invincibility for several seconds. But we can only transform 8 times. I use it first on the yellow and red squares just as we're leaving Hollow Bastion. Next we'll enter the purple warp. Note, this area looks more dangerous than it is. If we stay towards the top but move back and forth, maybe with a little clockwise movement for some razzle-dazzle, we can dodge a lot of the debris in enemy ships. I don't use transform here, but you can if you need to. Once in the yellow square section, I use transform twice to get through the walls. Then I fly between the rings and the purple rock roofs, then dodge the oncoming ships. Once in the purple square section, I stay dodging, but of course, transform if need be. Stay on the left when exiting the warp. And when we're in the blue background, we can sneak through the space between the teal rocks and the rings, but it's totally okay to use transform here as well. After that, we dodge a few ships and land at Traverse Town, acquiring the Moogle ship. So the ship is called Moogles. We aren't like robbing the Moogles of their gummy. Never mind. Wonderland's 3 missions can also be done before rescue. They are the also easy pissy lemon. Channeled my inner Starfire for that one. Mission 1. Get a high score of 120 or more, which we can do flying from Traverse Town to Wonderland. And this can be done with the base ship as long as the high score says 120 or higher. And I think it goes without saying. But I'll say it anyway. Our high score is an amalgam of all the lower scores. We get 1 point for each obstacle broken, enemy beaten, or item collected. Mission 2. With a haste or haste 2 gummy, use accelerate 5 or more times without taking damage. The only thing easier than this mission is me. I take that back, it does have a little bit of challenge. The mission, not me. We can use either butt ships with a shield or shield 2 gummy because it never specifies that it's prohibited. And we'll set off from Agrabah, taking the blue warp to reach Wonderland. Use accelerate here, here, and here, Also here. And make sure you stay on the left when exiting the blue warp. And lastly, accelerate here. If you find you can't get all 5 accelerates in time, you can do one of 3 things. 1. Fly from Halloween Town or Monstro instead. 2. Use a smaller engine like Fire-Aga instead of Holy, and or you can use the Haste Gummy instead of Haste 2. 3. Brake when you're not accelerating. Mission 3. Set off from Traverse Town and collect 40 or more Gummi Blocks. Gummi Blocks are the diamonds dropped specifically from enemy ships. What we're going to do for this is just hug the brakes anytime we see an enemy ship. Then, if there's several Gummi Blocks we can't reach, we'll use the Osmos net to collect them. You can look at this icon on the upper right to be sure you have enough. For reaching Wonderland with 40 or more diamonds, we'll receive our second ship, Valfor. Next up is Olympus Coliseum. Mission 1. We just need a high score of 180 or more, which we can do setting off from Deep Jungle. No additional info required. Jesus H. Sweezy, this mission is easy. Mission 2. Start off from Deep Jungle with only Thundara Gummi as a weapon, destroy 70 or more ships. I was able to do this with only 4 Thundaras, 2 shooting up and down and 2 shooting sideways. This isn't a brag, I'm just saying that you could do it as few as 4. Basically, what we have to do is look down and hold R1 to aim our upward shots towards the center of the screen. Or we can fly above the enemy ships and let the downward gun destroy those beneath us. Either way, we gotta make sure our horizontal shots are hitting the enemies off to the side. Bonus tip, we can hug the brakes when enemy ships appear to make it easier to destroy them. Mission 3. Set off from Traverse Town and destroy all 140 obstacles. Obstacles are like the meteors, the squares, the rocks, pretty much anything that isn't a ship or an item. Now for this, we will have to do it after rescue, and we do need to have all the Asuna Gummies on, which is the easiest to get if we have the entire Gummi collection from Pringle and Purina. Grab butts, that's bad phrasing, and equip a slower engine like Fire-Aga, because using Flare or Holy will be much too fast. And as for the guns, I put 6 Thunder Gummies in a spray formation, place 1 gun somewhere to the upper left, near the cockpit, and then go down 2, right 1. Repeat it. Then 4 Meteor Gummies under the ship. It isn't honestly too difficult until we reach the 3 walls of multicolored squares, and what we're going to do is shoot out the purple squares, and spam lasers on the red and yellow squares. Because just behind the 3rd wall are meteors with special gummies, which replenish everything. So do not be afraid to spam those last 2 walls with lasers. After that, we're pretty much in the clear, but I still hug the brakes around any obstacles I see because I'm an anxious kitty. And for reaching Olympus Coliseum, we received the Pee-Pee Poo-Poo Blueprint. Now for Deep Jungle. Mission 1. Get a high score of 200 or more, which we can do setting off from Olympus Coliseum. I'm not even sure if it's possible if we start from Wonderland, so don't. Mission 2. Set off from Agrabah, collect 10 or more Special Blocks. Special Blocks are the stars from the green, red, and brown meteors, and they replenish our everything, so it's totally not an issue if we spam lasers in this mission. When I left Agrabah, I slowed down for the brown meteors. I was, quote, doing the most, as I collected 7 specials before even hitting the orange warp. You don't need to do all that. Just shoot them as they come, and be on the right side of the screen when exiting the warp. Mission 3. Set off from Wonderland with only Thundaga as a weapon, destroy 55 or more enemy ships. This is a tough one, a real toughie, a big long toughy tough. I'll just play the clip here as I say my thoughts. This mission is all about timing. It is not a kind of mission. I had 6 Thundaga Gummies set up in a spray position. Also, holding brakes equals good. So do, Philadelphia. And like I said before, we can hold R1 to keep our reticles still. This thing. This is the reticle. The real important part of this is by these linked rings, shooting the 3 groups of 2 Cindy ships, and then shooting the 2 groups that charge us, while still being able to shoot the 2 rows of 4 is the hard part. If you don't have at least 49 enemies defeated by this point, pause and press select world to restart, because you ain't getting it. Once we get the 55 ships and land in Deep Jungle, we'll get the Cerberus blueprint? Sure, that makes sense. We could get it from Olympus Coliseum where Cerberus actually is, but you know, whatever. Next up, Agrabah. Mission 1. Get a high score of 330 or more. I set off from Olympus Coliseum using the orange warp and exiting left to reach Agrabah. And Bony Butts is enough to complete this one. I slowed down at the rows of purple and yellow squares before the orange warp. I also slowed down during most of the orange warp, which is another me doing the most moment, so you don't have to do all that. Mission 2. Set off from Wonderland with only comet gummies equipped. Destroy 130 or more enemy ships. This one can be pretty tough if you don't have an upgraded comm and not enough comet gummies. So by the time I did it, I had 8 comet gummies just in case, and also 3 power is not enough. Make sure you have more. We'll break every time we see an enemy, but be sure to ignore the death guises. Like your best friend's shitty boyfriend, they are not worth our time. Also go right when exiting the warp. I had 22 ships destroyed by the warp exit transition, and there are about 22 more ships after that, so have at least 118 destroyed, otherwise reset. Mission 3. Collect 130 or more gummy blocks without Drain or Osmos gummy. So for this one, we're gonna take our butts, remove the 2 Osmos nets, and build a big square around the edge of the editing cube. That way, we'll be able to take up more space, so we can grab more gummy blocks, which as I said before, are the diamonds dropped by enemy ships. Set off from Traverse Town, take the blue warp, and try to shoot enemies when they're in groups, so that way we can collect their drops easier. Otherwise, hugging the brakes around spread out diamonds will make it easier to grab them. Also, exit the blue warp on the right. When we reach Agrabah with 130 or more gummy blocks, we'll get the Tonberry blueprint. I always read this as Toonberry. It is not that. Next up is Atlantica, which is one of the harder set of gummy missions. And this world is the reason we want Monstro on the upper path. Monstro can still eat us when we fly by, and we do not want it to appear during an Atlantica mission, because these missions are much harder than the Halloween Town missions. And if it's too late for you, type F in the comments. Mission 1. Collect 10 or more armor blocks. This one is trickier than it seems because we are at the whims of RNG. Yay. Armor blocks are the green health blocks that we get from the blue rocks. I was able to complete this mission setting off from Agrabah, but just barely. So if you want a better chance, you can fly from Olympus Coliseum instead. Or, here's a real left field one, if you haven't unlocked Neverland, flying from Halloween Town to Atlantica is an option. Mission 2. Keep all obstacles intact while obtaining a score of 240 or higher.
No! God, please, no! No!
I was able to do this with Bony Butts, having 1 Thunder, 1 Thundara, and 2 Meteor gummies, but I don't recommend it. Instead, use 2 Thunder gummies, and the rest Meteors. Make sure you don't have a single Asuna gummy on. Also, I'll show you a clip of how I did it while I talk about it. Basically, we start from Olympus Coliseum, we laser the first few groups of enemies, then stop when the obstacles appear behind them. We'll also pick up the diamonds. Keep in mind, the orange icon in the corner is our obstacle indicator. If that goes below 0, we've failed. Failure. We'll then enter the orange warp. Try to avoid shooting until after we get past the meteors, then fly to the top of the screen to defeat the enemies while collecting their diamonds. It's okay to shoot a bit more around the red and brown meteors since they're sturdier, but don't shoot near the green meteors. Just don't even do it. Once we get to the end of the warp, hug the right side. Groups of crab uncles will fly in from behind us, wait for them to charge, then shoot them while aiming up slightly. When we reach the third section, we'll want to not shoot until we get past the rings. And then try to destroy as many death guises as possible while collecting their diamonds. Now, in this last section, be extremely careful not to destroy the sticks on the side, while simultaneously trying to destroy the death guises. Don't run out of power either, it's the reason we haven't been using the net to collect stuff. Although I'm only at 3 power, so if you have more, definitely use the Osmos Gummy. Once we reach a high score of 240, we will just stop shooting entirely, and then accelerate our way to Atlantica. Also, for the love of Jesus H. Rave, land and save. Mission 3. Avoid all items, but get a high score of 260 or more. Okay. The setup for this one, for me, was 8 Thundara gummies, all pointed backwards, with 4 of them flipped on their side, then 2 Ultimas. Now the Ultimas are useful for shooting stuff ahead of us when we can easily dodge those dropped items, and since it ricochets, it can break smaller objects too, getting us more points. We'll start from Olympus Coliseum, look up, and hold R1 to shoot below us. Then hug the brakes, while breaking the purple and yellow square rows, as well as the blue rocks. It's totally good to laser at the beginning of the orange warp because the enemy's drops are easy to dodge, and it's always okay to stop shooting if you think you're going to accidentally pick up an item. Also, hugging the brakes, a thing I haven't suggested 30 times already, is good because it causes enemies to spawn slower, leading to less enemies on screen at one time. I break pretty much the entire orange warp, and towards the end I start lasering. But also exit on the right. See these green rocks that appear in this little spiral? Those are particularly useful to destroy with the laser because it's extra obstacle points with no items. And be very careful when shooting or lasering when the crab buckles appear because they can fly into our shots when they come on screen, forcing us to accidentally pick up their item. The red and green rock field is another great spot for lasering. And once we get 260 points, we can just accelerate the rest of the way. Just don't even shoot, just stop shooting, just hustle, just haste, just get out of there. Once we reach Atlantica, we'll get the Pandemonium ship. And we'll also save, for the love of God, save, do it right now! Halloween Town. Mission 1. Collect 20 or more power blocks, which are the blue starred orbs that are dropped from blue rocks. Now, this is technically possible from Neverland, but again, we're at the whims of RNG, so if you happen to be doing this before unlocking Neverland, flying from Atlantica to Halloween Town is the best time to do it. Who am I kidding? You've already finished the game. Otherwise, our best bet is to come from Traverse Town and just hope Monstro doesn't spawn, because Anyway, this is really about RNG, so if stuff goes wrong, no biggie. Best to just try again. Mission 2. Destroy 220 or more enemy ships without using the brakes. This is another one that's best done if we come from Traverse Town. What's most important here is not the guns, you can use whatever for those, but rather that we're using a slower engine. Fire-Aga works for me over Holy or Flare, but if that's too fast, you can use Fire or Fire-A. Here's what I had by the end of each portion. These can be markers for you. 38 by the end of the yellow rings, 55 by the time I entered the blue warp, 164 by the end of the blue warp, be sure to exit on the left, 216 by the time the background changed, and 342 by the time I reached Halloween Town. I was very meticulous, or yes, doing the most. And there's more than enough ships, so you don't have to destroy them all like I did. Mission 3. Set off from Neverland with only meteor gummies as a weapon and get a high score of 550 or more. Now, like all the other weapon-specific missions, this one isn't too hard with the entire gummy collection, or Comm Level 3 with all the meteor gummies we can buy. The hardest part about this mission is making sure we've destroyed enough obstacles along the way. So, be sure to hug the brakes in the areas with many obstacles, like the X's at the beginning, also in the French fry portion, chips if you're British, the spiral of tube sections, etc. Also, managing power isn't really a big deal here since there are meteors around that drop special gummies, but we can get screwed by the blue rocks dropping armor, so do be careful of that. For reaching Halloween Town with 550 points, we'll get the Zexion blueprint. No, sorry, Ixion blueprint. Now for Neverland. Mission 1. Set off from Atlantica with only the Thunder Gummy equipped as a weapon, and destroy 150 or more enemy ships. We'll set up the Thunder Gummies in a spray. If we destroy every ship along the way, then at the pink rocks we'll have 52 blown away. Enough of that, I had 90 by the time the bombs showed up. 129 when the green meteors were overhead, then 162 when reaching Neverland. You can use those as markers, and if you're not quite meeting them, then you can restart. Mission 2. With 100 or more gummy blocks, set off from Olympus Coliseum and arrive in Neverland without taking any damage. Like whatever mission it was before, Wonderland I think, it doesn't prohibit the shield gummy, so we're gonna use it. Now, though, there's one thing. We'll take butts and add however many armor blocks we need so that it'll have 100 blocks on it. Behold, thick butts. Anyway, we'll fly into the purple warp and exit the purple warp on the right, and then land in Neverland. And as long as our shield stays up, we're good, cause taking shield damage does not count as real damage. Mission 3. Use 10 or fewer gummy blocks, set off from Olympus Coliseum, and destroy 777 or more obstacles. 777, 777, 777, 7. So we're gonna build a new ship, put in our cockpit, put in our engine, use 4 Thunders in a spray, 2 Meteor Gummies, 1 Asuna Gummy, and 1 Tornado Gummy. Pump the brakes at the spot with a lot of obstacles, like the purple, yellow, and red squares, and when we're in the purple warp, we need to destroy as many of the yellow and purple X structures as we can. Exterminate, you might say. Then later, on those red floor squares, and as many purple and yellow vertical tubes, too. When we hit the rings, destroy the wall of yellow and purple squares. And in the next section, those red X's are actually hard to break, so don't worry about them. Try to break the green rocks and other obstacles before even trying with the red X's. If you're a tryhard, like I was, I really slammed those brakes. We can have 777 before leaving the purple warp. Exit on the right, by the way. But you don't have to do all that. I'm just a bit. For reaching Neverland with 777 or more obstacles destroyed, we get the Gilgamesh blueprint. Almost there. Hollow Bastion. Mission 1. Set off from Neverland with only Ultima Gummi as a weapon and destroy 130 or more enemy ships. I did this before rescue, again much easier with Con level 3 and as many Ultimas as we can buy, but at this point I only had 3 Ultimas, which isn't how one might say optimal or preferable or smart. The trick to it, particularly if you're doing it way too early, is to slow down when you encounter enemy ships. Only shoot when the enemies are locked onto in order to really conserve power. And if we're doing that, as well as using Osmos Net whenever there's a power gummy on screen, we should be totally fine. Mission 2. Obtain a high score of 1600 or more. This one is definitely an after rescue mission because we need to use the purple warp. Basically though, we're just gonna blow up everything, setting off from Olympus Coliseum while hugging the brakes basically the whole time. Honestly, this one's more long than hard. That's what she said. Use butts with thunder spray and 4 meteor gummies. Also a fire raga engine so we're a little slower, and make sure the Asunas and the Osmos gummies are on. Strategically place Osmos usage with special gummy blocks or power blocks, and here's some markers so you can be sure you're on the right track to getting it. After the first portion, I had a high score of 108. Then, when entering the purple warp, my high score was 339. By the first transition, I had a high score of 920. This is a big jump and I really hugged those brakes and focused on obstacle destruction. By the second transition, I was at 1297. And when exiting the purple warp, with an illegal left by the way, I was at 1732. Again, really hug the brakes while braking obstacles. Mission 3. Use Haze 2 Gummy 10 times without taking damage. Shields prohibited. Now here's the thing. This is the thing. You ready for the thing? Here's the thing. This is the thing. This sounds harder than it is, because as long as we don't bump into any obstacles, we can just obliterate everything on the path. We're going to use thick butts with 6 Thunder Gummy Spray and 4 Meteors, no Asunas, no Shield 2 Gummy, and a Fire Raga Gummy instead of Holy or Flare. Now I did save this version of the ship twice and attached a Transform Gummy to use like we did earlier, however, I ended up not needing it, but I do recommend it just in case. So we're going to use Accelerate at these places. And while exiting the purple warp, be sure to be on the left. The only thing now is, once we're out of the purple warp, we need to watch out for the Death Guy ships that can smack our ass like a drum. So let's stay out of the right side of the screen. We can also accelerate an additional time to reach Hollow Bastion. Once we reach HB with 10 accelerates, we'll rise from the ashes with the Phoenix Blueprint. God, that was terrible, just terrible. Now for End of the World. Mission 1. Use 2 Gummy Blocks and arrive without taking any damage or using the brakes. So this is a cockpit and engine only mission. I use the original cockpit because we don't need the better ones. If we get hit, it's over. And we'll use the Holy engine.
Because I say so, that's why!
And since this is all about maneuvering, I'll show you the clip so you can copy what I do. Hey, me again real quick. With the Omegas, Holy does make it a bit touch and go for a second. So if you're worried about getting hit right here, use a Fire Aga engine instead of Holy, since the slower we go, the sooner enemies will spawn, giving us more space between them and the obstacles. But for what it's worth, being a slippery little snake worked for me. Mission 2. Use 5 or fewer Gummi Blocks and obtain a high score of 350 or more. So we're going to take this same 2-block ship, add a Thunder Gun, an Ultima Gun, and an Osmos Net. This is the penultimate culmination of break hugging and power conservation. Call the people who make solar panels, they're going to want to take notes. We have to find the right balance of lasers and Osmo sweeps to preserve power. Of course, it's best to try and defeat the enemies when they're closer together. Additionally, we want to grab their items with our ship more often than not, being sure to only use Osmos when we see power gummies on screen. Now you'll notice, in the asteroid field part, I'm almost exclusively shooting and using Ultima, but not using Osmos, and that's because breaking the rocks is way more important than collecting the items. And, oh, yeah, don't do that. Anyway, once we're in this multi-bar colored section, aside from osmosing when there's power gummies, we want to break as many multicolor bars as we can. However, it is still 4th priority behind enemies, power gummies, and Gummi Blocks in that order. For the Omega portion, we basically can't destroy any of them, they're too beefy. Call them Arby's because they got the beef. So I just dodge them and use the brakes towards the end so they don't spawn in the purple cave like last mission. At the purple cave, I destroyed the first set of blue rocks and collected their drops, which got me over the 330 high score. There's more enemies and drops to grab after that, so if you're not at 330 but around 300, you should still be able to do it. Congrats on completing it. Now for the big one. The final gummy mission of the game. Get a high score of 600 or more. Unsurprisingly, we're going to use butts. But with Fire Gummy, the weakest engine, along with 6 Thunder Spray, along with 4 Meteors, all Asuna Gummies, and a Shield too. Here we go. Hug the brakes the entire mission, never let up, never, don't even think about it. Well, actually you can, to cause the enemies to spawn more sooner. So. Now, do make sure you have my exact high score for each portion. If you don't have 76 exactly by the background transition, just restart. For the asteroid field, use laser shots sparingly. Mainly we'll use the Thunder Spray to destroy most of the asteroids. Also, don't osmos here. The asteroids are more important than the items, and we'll just do our best to fly over to them. But like I said, asteroids take precedent. When we get to the tunnel, we want about 225. For this multicolored bar portion, we really want to focus those bars this time. The hierarchy now is enemies, blue rocks, multicolored bars, items. Items being the least important because we can osmose them whenever there's a power gummy available. By the time we reach the teal rock wall, be around 410. Also, let go of the brake when you're nearing said wall because the enemies behind it will pass through it, making it harder to destroy them, possibly negating the items we could get too. For the Omegas, try to destroy as many as possible. Let's just laser spam here. Like, I don't run out in the footage, but literally I want you to try to run out of power. Actually do it. The blue rocks in the purple cave will have power gummies for us, so it is okay. Also, a high score of around 510 when nearing the purple cave is good. You can also let up on the brakes in the tunnel. Once we're through the purple tunnel, we have to try to destroy as many ships and collect as many items as we can to get that 600 score. And once we do, we can accelerate to the end of the world where we'll get the Eden Blueprint, completing the gummy missions. Land and save, right now. Saved? Okay, good. There is one ship left. If we return to Gummy Space and enter the Gummy Missions menu, we'll receive the Bahamut Blueprint for beating all Mission 3 Gummy missions. Finally completing our Gummy Blueprint collection. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I deeply hope this guide helped you to finally check off that gummy trophy, or even grab platinum, or whatever weird thing Xbox, Switch, or PC have. It'd help me out a ton if you subscribed, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye! Otherwise, our best bet is to come from Traverse Town and just hope Monstro doesn't spawn, because
Get out of the street.
Hey, that man got a dummy thick ass, a dummy thick ass, a dummy thick ass. Hey, that man got a dummy thick ass, his ass the size of the moon. Hey, that man got a dummy thick ass, a dummy thick ass, a dummy thick ass. Hey, that man got a dummy thick ass, his ass the size of the moon.